Welcome to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring conversations about life in the central San Joaquin Valley. This program is brought to you in partnership between KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC Fresno. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Today in the studio, we have Mike Firpo. He's with an organization called the First Tee Fresno. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. The last time we talked, it was a much different environment.
A little bit. We're out at Fresno State, yep.
In a small radio station out there. Yep. Now we've taken it to the next level.
Moving on up.
Thank you for coming, by the way.
Thanks for having me.
I always enjoy our conversations because you're a little unique. Your organization's a little unique. You've taken the game of golf. Tell us what you're doing with golf.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the elevator pitch is we're a nonprofit youth development organization, and we're taking the game of golf and we're teaching a set of life skills around the game of golf so that the kids can use those life skills in a golf setting and outside of the golf setting in everyday life.
One of the things you were talking about off camera with one of the crew members named Hilda, who's in the studio right now listening, is a meet and greet and shaking hands. Talk about that. I didn't follow the conversation, but okay. I knew I needed to ask you that question.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about life skills, and it's a term you hear all over the place now, but life skills are a set of tangible products that we teach, so to speak. And one of them is meeting and greeting. And as we did when we walked in, and as you're used to doing, when we teach children to look somebody in the eyes, shake hands firmly. If you're wearing a hat and sunglasses, you take those off. You speak clearly and loud because a lot of kids tend to mumble. And you speak with confidence. And when you learn to meet and greet somebody, it changes a child's outlook outside of golf. For example, we've had teachers tell us that when a child's been in our program a little while and they learn these things, they come in and they say hi to the teacher in the morning, they raise their hands and ask questions. They become more confident with what they need to do and they project better. So meeting and greeting is one of my favorite life skills. And we teach it in a golf setting. So it's not like we line them up and say, this is how you do it. You know, we're out there in a golf setting, and you might be chipping, and it's your turn, and then I end up waiting for you to finish. Well, the only way I get to take your spot is you come back and introduce yourself to me, we meet and greet, and then you ask me if I would like to hit. So the kids want to do that, and by teaching them meeting and greeting in a golf setting, it's a fun way to learn.
You know, you mentioned something that I want to talk about. Actually shaking your hand, someone's hand, and looking them in the eye. I mean, yes. Since you teach that, then I imagine that when you're meeting people, you notice that. In
Yes.
your opinion, do a lot of people look you in the eye and shake your hand?
People who are not associated with the program, you know, people who are associated know, and they know, okay, it's kind of like
Mr. Firpo's coming. We better look him in the eye.
Yes. But in a general public setting, a lot of adults do, but it's amazing how many adults are still very shy about it. They kind of look at you, but then, you know, look down at your tie all of a sudden, or look at something else in the background as they say hello. And I've had several interviewers, people that work for corporations that we deal with on a regular basis, tell us that that meeting and greeting aspect in an interview can change the outlook of that interview in the first 2 minutes. And so I do notice quite a few adults could probably use a little work in that area. But again, it's about just becoming comfortable with it. And I even, as I'm walking down the street, you're not meeting and greeting everybody, but I watch people more and see, are their eyes going to look at the ground as we get closer and closer to crossing paths as we're walking down the sidewalk or something. So it's an interesting scenario where you see how people are really comfortable or really uncomfortable.
And I can imagine, I mean, this is just hypothetical, but I can imagine that you mentioned the interview. I mean, I can imagine that when you have two candidates very similar, I can imagine the one that may get the job is the firm handshake and the look directly in the eye.
Yep.
And do you teach the handshake with both male and female students?
Oh, yes.
Because, you know, sometimes I see that people say, oh, you know, the female is not going to shake the hand correctly. But in your program, you do it the right way then.
We've kind of moved into the new century, so to speak. You know, the old method when I was growing up and we were growing up, the handshake was even different. If you were meeting a lady, then the handshake was a little bit different. It wasn't the firm grasp and handshake. We teach all of our kids the same now. The girls, a nice firm handshake, look you right in the eye. The only exception on the female side is if a young lady's wearing a hat, which a lot of times is worked into their ponytail or whatnot, they don't have to remove their hats because that could be a whole wardrobe issue once they remove the hat and have to put it back on again. So, yeah.
Talk about how kids would qualify for this program.
Believe it or not, every kid in Fresno between the ages of 7 and 17 is eligible to join our program. We've even started a 4, 5, and 6-year-old class that we're just starting. We're piloting called Little Linksters, where we're going to kind of gear them to having a lot of fun on the golf course so that when they turn 7 is when the life skills programming starts. All kids are eligible. We're trying to reach every kid in town that wants to come out. We do charge. One of the things that parents always want to know, how much is it? Well, it's $120 for an entire calendar year. And that's a minimum of 26 weeks of formal programming along with several other weeks of activities.
Wait, $126 for $120 for 26 weeks of programming?
A minimum, yeah. It's a calendar year's worth of programming. We don't charge for classes or sessions. We charge to become a member each year, and then you take as many classes as you want. And then we also offer financial aid, scholarships we refer to them as, and so you can receive a partial or full scholarship based on the family's need. And all scholarships are accepted. We don't require people to fill out an elaborate application process. We're going to run on the honesty factor of the 9 core values.
We believe you.
Yeah, it costs more than $120 to run the program, so if somebody needs a little assistance, I'd rather have every kid who wants to do it in the program versus only those who can afford it, because that's our mission, is to get everybody involved.
Somewhere in this is the game of golf, along with the life skills and the handshake. You've somewhere tied in the game of golf. So walk us through the process.
Sure.
I have a child. My child is 8 years old, and I want my child to come through your program because I've heard great things about it.
Sure. Every kid comes in and starts at what we call our player level. That's the beginning, whether you're 8 or 15. And that level works on rules and etiquette of the game, our 9 core values, and it works a little bit in the life skills department, but it's mainly getting them used to what the game of golf is. And it will be done in somewhat of a golf setting. So you might be on a putting green, but there might be several golf holes set up on the putting green. And so you're going to learn about the tee box. You're going to learn where to stand when somebody else is hitting. You're going to learn to mark your ball on the putting green, a lot of those rules and etiquette. But they're also going to be learning how to meet and greet. They're going to be learning how to putt, golf skills. We do have golf skills. It's all part of the program. So they're getting golf skills. They're getting the 9 core values. They're eventually going to start getting life skills as they progress. And they're doing all this with the rules and etiquette of the game in a fun setting. So your 8-year-old does not sit in the classroom and learn about life skills. They're learning about the life skills, like we were talking about with meeting and greeting, while they're out on the driving range. And so that's where the fun is they're learning in a fun setting. It's not a golf academy, and I tell people right up front, we're not here to create the next #1 player in the world. But we do have a lot of really good players in our program at the same time. So it's a mixture of everything, and it's open to everybody.
This is kind of a tricky question, but if my life skills are great, would that make it easier for me to be a good golfer? Or would that help me be a good golfer?
The kids who come in who are well-rounded, as we put it, and they have a good sense of right and wrong, and they've got the good life skills, so to speak, it does give them a little bit of an advantage, but we get really good golfers who have really good life skills already built into their family setting, and they still benefit from our program. But yes, if you're somebody who has a good grasp on decision-making skills, a good grasp on all the life skills that we're working on and then some, then it can make things a little bit easier. It helps you relax and feel more confident.
You know, another trick question is luck. In the game of golf,
Sure.
Can luck assist you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's where life skills come in handy, because sometimes bad luck is what you're getting in the game of golf.
So, you know, for people who don't know anything about golf, for parents who don't know anything about golf, and for kids who don't know anything about golf, if they enroll in this program, are you going to teach them, I mean, like the hole-in-one or the birdie or the par is another word. You could tell I'm not very familiar with the game of golf. But
Perfect for our program.
Will they come out of it understanding the game more?
Yes, they will. And that's part of what we do in our beginning level. The player level was just introduced 3 or 4 years ago. It hasn't always been part of the first tee. And the reason why they came up with that was exactly what you're talking about. Kids were getting into the program, and it was life skills and swinging, but they weren't learning par, birdie, eagles. They weren't learning about fixing divots. They weren't learning about proper etiquette when somebody else is hitting. They weren't learning all those things about the game of golf. They weren't learning that if you leave the first tee at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you should be on the 9th green by about 4 or 4:15 in the afternoon. Time, pace of play. So those are all things they're going to learn along the way. So yes, your child comes into our program, and basically you could say A to Z, they're learning everything they need to know.
I read online something that got me
good.
excited. The internet. You have partnered with Johnson & Johnson. Now, is this the same big
Yep.
company, Johnson & Johnson.
Yep,
Talk about
exactly.
that partnership.
This is our third year of the partnership, and it's on a national level, international level, with our entire organization, our home office as we refer to it. And Johnson & Johnson came to us a few years ago, 3 years ago now, and they wanted to align with us because of the 9 core values and their mission and our mission, and they wanted to do some good in the community. And so on a level nationally, they got involved, and then that money and their involvement spread to each individual chapter. So they're getting involved in the local community, dealing with it on a national level. And what it is basically is a 2-for-1 matching grant. So basically what that is for every $2 we raise, they're going to kick in another $1. And their only stipulation has to do with the fact that it's every $2 you raise over the previous year's fundraising.
Okay.
So for example, if we raise $30,000 more this year than we did last year, we get a $15,000 check from Johnson & Johnson.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's been really phenomenal. Last year in 2013, we actually got $31,000 because we had a great fundraising year over the previous year, and we met their criteria, which they're wanting to help us out. And believe me, you can imagine $31,000 to any nonprofit is huge.
Especially in the Valley. That's incredible.
And we're no different than a child. We're getting rewarded, and we're getting a little bit of a perk from doing well. So they're not, because they're not going to just give money to anybody if you're not doing well. But it's nice, even at our level, it's nice to be recognized when you're doing something nice. And Johnson & Johnson has been phenomenal to do that. And we're talking 186 more or less chapters around the country. So if you do the math, that ends up being a lot of money. It's been great.
I'm thankful that if I need cleats for my child, I can go and I'll purchase the cleats, very thankful and very fortunate. Yeah. But, you are in a unique situation. You see children that have parents that are well off and children that are not so much. But, are there kids out there whose parents can't afford simple things like cleats or a cap? You mentioned a cap earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Are there, and how can audience members help in making that happen?
Well, 2 things. One, you don't have to bring anything with you to our program. We can provide you with all the equipment, all the instruction, and even access to golf courses based on our donors and what we do as a nonprofit. 2, how people can get involved basically is we take donations of any kind. We do ask that if it's something you think is reusable, we do get some equipment and some things that are a little bit too old and don't quite work for us, but we do other things with that equipment as well. So people can donate anything they think is usable, and we will pass that along to our children that are in the program. But then also, and actually we're going to be doing some things as we go into next spring where we'll be having rummage sales for some of the equipment that might be a little more valuable but not usable by a child, and adult golfers can come out and make donations and receive equipment, and then we take that money and go buy equipment for kids. So we make sure the kids are fully staffed with whatever they need, and if it means we need to try to locate some shoes, or we need to get them some equipment, then we do that as well.
Tell us about the partnership with the different golf courses. Have golf courses been helpful in your project? And talk about which ones.
Sure. First of all, every golf course we've ever approached in the Fresno area has been wonderful to us. We don't program at every golf course for various reasons, but they've all been good to us. They've all been willing to help. We're even up in Madera and down in Dinuba at Ridge Creek Golf Club. Our facilities that we teach at, our home facility is Riverside Golf Course, so they've been #1 since before day 1 because we had to have a home. And they welcomed us in. The city of Fresno owns Riverside. It's known as Big Muni. And the staff out there has been wonderful to us. We have our own, I call it a little office, but I'm very blessed to have it. So we have our office out there. We teach a lot of classes out there. And Riverside has just opened their doors. I mean, the amount of range balls that we use and the requests that we have of the maintenance crew to help us out, and they've been wonderful. Airways Golf Course is another golf course that's been great with us, and they even shut down their driving range when we have to run a class for us, and the guys out at Airways have been more than helpful to us over the years as well, and they do that all free of charge. And so we get to use that facility and keep our costs down. We're also at a facility called Bluff Point. A lot of people may know it as Islewood Driving Range, but it's changed ownership. Jim Perez and the ownership out there has been welcoming to us as well as they took over. It's now called Bluff Point, and we do program out there as well. And then we're also at Madera Municipal Golf Course up off of Avenue 17, and we're down at Ridge Creek and Dinuba as well. And those are our 2 latest facilities that we're starting to build on as well. So we're really growing. Congratulations.
It sounds like you're growing.
Yeah.
Talk about your background. Why are you involved in this organization? When did you start? And I mean, every time I talk to you, you have this passion for this. And it never dies down, by the way. This is probably our third interview now.
Yep.
And every time I talk to you, your passion is still there. I mean, your background in this program, why you're so passionate about it?
Well, without the long version of my life, but I grew up in junior golf in this area, and I was fortunate and blessed to have some golf professionals in the area that gave me some free advice and free tips and lessons as I was growing up at the age of 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And on top of that, when I became a golf professional and started teaching golf, which has been over 20 years now, the one thing I got tired of was the kids would come out from June to August. Summer camps are coming, so everybody comes out to summer camps. And then they pay you, and you teach the camps, and they go back to school, and they see you next summer. So I didn't like that aspect of it. I thought, we're in Fresno. This is year-round golfing. We need to get more of this out there. And only the kids who could afford to pay me would come out and do those classes. So I knew about the first tee of Fresno, the first tee, and I got a hold of the program. And actually, I ended up founding the program here with a gentleman named Duke Ramshaw. And the two of us didn't know each other before we got together, but the first tee home office put us together because we were inquiring. And so we actually founded the program here together, and once it was built up to where we were ready to function after about 1.5 years or 2 years of the business plan and fundraising, I basically was like, I don't want to hand this off.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it to somebody else now, so I left teaching golf full time and became the executive director of this program, and that's where I've been ever since.
Another off-topic question, but some people may be hesitant to get involved in golf because they think, you can't make a living doing golf.
Right.
Or, as a golf instructor or a professional golfer. What advice would you give for them? Because my fear is there are some good players out there that may go undeveloped because of misconceptions out there.
There is, and my best piece of advice for somebody who wants to get into the industry but doesn't know if they can make a living at it is, you don't know where it's going to take you. So you mentioned my passion for what I do. The reason why my passion doesn't go away is I really do love what I'm doing. And so I'm born and raised in Fresno. Golf is something I love to do, and there's no reason for the passion to go away when you really love what you're doing. So somebody who wants to get into this industry, you don't know where it's going to take you. I thought I'd be playing in front of the cameras on TV on Sundays, cashing big checks and being interviewed at Pebble Beach and stuff. And that didn't happen, but when I look at where life took me through the opportunities from the game of golf to sitting here with you, I feel very fortunate as well, because within my own community, I do sit, and reflect and think, we're doing a lot of really good things. And if I can be the catalyst, I've got a ton of volunteers, I've got board members, I've got a couple of staff people, mostly volunteers, but I've got a couple of great staff people. They do a ton of work, and I get to come and do these interviews and brag about the program and kind of just facilitate that. So you just don't know where it's going to take you. If it takes you onto the PGA or LPGA Tour, great.
Great.
If it doesn't, there's a lot of doors that open because of it, and you never know who you're going to meet on a golf course. You might end up getting a job in some other industry because of somebody you meet on the golf course.
Does that really happen? I mean,
yes.
You always hear about people who get into golf, and then all of a sudden there's deals that are made in the golf course. I was reading the other day that President Reagan was meeting one of the other people in the office on a golf course. So these important meetings are happening on golf courses.
They do, and they're not always planned. So you can plan a meeting. I've planned a meeting with donors, and we've played golf, and that cultivates a relationship. But you never know who you're going to meet. We have kids that we send to different opportunities throughout the year. And one of the opportunities is the First Tee Open over at Pebble Beach, which is our biggest event of the year, and it's a PGA Tour tournament with the Champions Tour players, the likes of Hale Irwin, Mark Calcavecchia, Tom Kite. And so these kids get to go over there when they earn their way, and they get to play in this Pro-Am all week. Well, in that Pro-Am, they're going to play with 4 different amateurs, 2 amateurs one day, 2 amateurs the next day, and they're going to be paired with a pro the whole week. You don't know who you're going to meet in those Pro-Ams. We've had players there who have met some of the heads of Pebble Beach Company, some of the heads of Nature Valley, who's the sponsor of the tournament. So if you meet somebody from Nature Valley and you're a high school student, who knows where that's going to lead you?
Right.
There's a job waiting for you possibly.
Well, and as you're talking to me, I'm thinking about the conversation we had with the handshake and the look in the eye.
Exactly.
Because if the pro is, whoever the pro is and whoever the people you are that are meeting, if they're impressed with you and your handshake and your demeanor, that opens up a whole different world for you. So circling it all the way around.
It's all connected, and the reality of it is, now the First Tee Open, you have to be a really good golfer. But in the real world, if you have all those tools at your service and you're confident, so it doesn't really matter how good a golfer you are, because the golfing is just, again, it's the vehicle you're using to meet people and learn to. Even if you don't ever get a job from golf, you're meeting all these wonderful people. I've met so many people over the years from golfing, and I know people in other cities that I haven't seen in 15 years, but I know they live there. And if I ever get back to that town, I'm going to try to look this person up and say, hey, remember me? Let's go play some golf.
When you were starting this organization, when you were co-founding this organization in Fresno,
Yep.
and you think about it today, did it go the way you thought? I mean, is this the way you wanted it to go?
Oh yeah, it is the way I wanted it to go. When we first started it, I really didn't have an idea of an end number. I mean, we're reaching into the 16,000 of kids every year.
That is
Annually.
phenomenal.
And that's not accumulated. That's annually. We're in a whole bunch of elementary schools. We've actually created a middle school program, so we're going into the schools where the kids are, and we have a lot of kids coming out to our facilities as well. But golf, as you know, it's just not like a playground. It's not all over town, so it's a little bit harder to get to those kids all over town. So that's why we went into the schools. So yes, it's going the way I was thinking it would go. But I don't think you could ever really imagine it getting as big as it is. And I can tell you that in the next 12 to 18 months, we might exceed anything we thought we might even at this point.
That's incredible.
Because the community, everybody we talk to in the community, when they learn more about us and awareness grows and shows like this, it just keeps building momentum. And that momentum just keeps moving things along, and I just keep trying to stay up with it.
You know, you mentioned kids and who they can meet, but what about the parents? I mean, I'm thinking, when my son is 7, 8 years old and I take him out on a Saturday to a first tee of Fresno event, and while the kids are doing their thing, I'm going to be in the side talking to parents.
Yep.
So I mean, it's just, it sounds like there's all kinds of people meeting all kinds of people, and at the end of the day, there's a lot of good because those kids are learning not only life skills, but they're having fun playing golf.
They are, and you're right. The parents are hanging out a little bit. Some of them leave and come back, but a lot of the parents stay for an hour-long class. It's an hour and 15 minutes now, and they stick around, they talk to each other. We actually do several functions a year where we have family barbecues, and we invite the whole family to come out, and they get to play golf games and hang out with the kids and barbecue hot dogs and things. And so they are seeing and they're learning that. And then another factor is when your kids go to school and they come home with math homework, you help them with math homework, they go back to school. When they go to the first tee class, they come home, and what they're learning starts to filter into the family setting. And the parents will learn from the kids. And so the parents will learn watching the classes as well. So meeting and greeting isn't something that stops with the kid. We have kids who may be 12 years old, and their parents are picking up on the changes in their behavior, and then it becomes part of what the parents do. And it's part of what our volunteers do. We have a great volunteer staff, and people ask me if there's an adult first tee program. And they laugh when I tell them, but I'm like, yeah, it's called volunteering. When you volunteer and you're on the tee line with these kids, you're listening and you're a part of the entire coaching process. And so as we look for more and more volunteers, that is a great way for the volunteers to learn as well.
And you have these events for volunteers on a regular basis?
Yeah, we do. Our next one coming up will be late January, early February. I don't have the dates in front of me, but they're on a regular basis throughout throughout 2015. And you can get that through our website. They'll be posted on our website by early January, if not before then. And you can always go to our website and you can email us. Ryan Castaneda is our program director. Obviously, you can get my email as well. You can email any of us, and we can get you those dates. But our volunteer trainings are about 3 hours, and we provide lunch. We time it so it's usually like a 10 to 1, and you get lunch included. So if nothing else, you're going to get a nice meal out of it.
Nice meal, yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to learn all about the first tee program. Doesn't mean you have to go on the tee line if you come to the training, but it's going to teach you about what our program does and what we are, and you may want to get involved with the fundraising event and not go on the tee line. But we have a lot of volunteers who go through this training, no golf experience whatsoever, and they're able to come out and be an assistant coach. And that scares people when you say assistant coach. But trust me, you don't have to have any golf experience to be an assistant coach.
Well, like take someone like me. Let's say that, I want to get involved. I have about a month or so or a couple of months of time, and then, life starts getting hectic. Would you accept someone like me who says, you know what, Mike, I want to help, but I only got this window to help?
Because when you give me the window of time, I'm going to use it, trust me. We're a volunteer organization. You can tell me you only got the next 2 weeks and then you're going to be gone. I'll figure out something for 2 weeks. But no, let's say you have a couple of months. Well, in the spring, we run a 9-week program. And then in the summer, we do it for 8 weeks because of the time constraints with school getting out and starting, and then we do 9 weeks in the fall. That's our regular weekly programming with the kids on the tee line. So let's say you have time between March and May, then we can put you into one of those 9-week classes and you commit to one class a week. It's, say, Tuesdays from 5 to 6:15 p.m. So you get there at 4:30, you're gone by 6:30. And if you're going, well, 9 weeks, maybe I can go next month. I say, okay, great. We'll look at the time frame. There'll be an event coming up. There'll be a fundraiser coming up. There'll be something coming up where you can get on a committee and just help at your leisure when you have free time. Or if you can make the first 6 or 7 weeks of a session and then we need to get a sub to fill in the last couple of weeks for you, we'll do that too. So it's never a scenario where we can't utilize your time.
You know, over the year, you've been involved in golf for a very long time, as we've talked about. Over the years, are you finding that there's a more of a respect, or I don't want to say understanding, but more of a respect for the game of golf? Because, you know, as I'm growing up, and maybe it's because, you know, I'm seeing people my age now,
Right.
but a lot of people now I know around me are playing golf for leisure. I'm seeing on Facebook my friends
yeah.
at golf
Oh, yeah.
courses, and I'm thinking, wait, when I was a kid, did I notice that?
No, it has changed. One, it used to only think a certain segment was going to be golfing, and now we've, you know, literally as far as the kids go, like I said, we've opened it up to everybody. So there is the myth of you have to be privileged and have access, certain access in order to play golf is gone for the kids. But the same thing with the adults for the most part is you're seeing more and more people getting involved with the game because it's gone global. And not only was it global before, but now it's hit more of the media and become more popular. And you see guys like Ricky Fowler and Rory McIlroy on the PGA Tour. Annika Sorenstam started years ago on the Ladies Tour. And now you've got just a whole slew of young ladies out on the tour, Paula Creamer and such. So it's becoming more cool, so to speak. If that's a good phrase, probably not the best phrase to use.
Yeah.
But it is becoming more of a cool sport, and people are realizing when they go try it, it's addictive and it's fun. Even when you're not good at it, it's very addicting. So yeah, you're seeing many, many more people out there, and the respect for the game is part of that because you're opening it up to everybody. It's not a certain class of people anymore.
We are out of time this week on the
Really?
program. Yeah, we were just getting started. Thank you so much for coming back to the studio and telling us about this fantastic organization.
Oh, my pleasure.
The First Tee of Fresno.
My pleasure, and I'll come back anytime you want. You know that.
And we're going to hold you to that
I
promise.
will, definitely.
That's all for this edition of San Joaquin Spotlight. Our guest this week has been Mike Firpo. He is with the First Tee of Fresno. Mike, again, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you to the volunteers that make this and every production possible. There is a group of them in the studio, and their names appear at the end in the credits. Thank you to our audience members watching this program on Comcast 93 and AT&T 99, the CMAX studios, and also to those of you listening to the program on KFSR 90.7 FM. We couldn't have a program if you weren't out there watching and listening to us. My name is Sevag Tateosian. Tune in next week for a new edition.